Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and happy Valentine's Day, because today is Valentine's Day even though this video will be up after. Just want to wish you all a happy Valentine's Day and hope you're spending it with someone you love. So I've been going through some comments and I've noticed that people want me to explain my study process. I know I did a video on study tips, which I will leave in the link below, but I'm going to take you through my week when I know I have a test coming up in a week, and I'm gonna explain exactly what I do. And it's a lot, so just be prepared, but you know, comes with the territory. So let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do is read the textbook. I know that sounds super simple, but to be honest, I've never read a textbook all through nursing school. But now that's completely different. You're going to have to read. So before I have the lecture, I read the textbook so that I kind of get a feel for what we're gonna be learning. And if I have any questions, I can ask in the lecture time instead of having to email the teacher after class. So I read before class, then we have the lecture, and then I hear the information again for a second time. And then from that point on, it's all independent studying. So the independent studying part has 6 components. So I do 6 different formats and ways of studying outside of actually learning the material in lecture. So I first start off with, after I read the textbook and after I had the lecture, I go back into the PowerPoint, because during lectures sometimes the teachers speak about things that aren't on the slide, so I spend a lot of my time just like writing down extra notes. So then after that, I go back and actually read through the PowerPoints. And when I read through those PowerPoints, I try to get a general idea of what the main focus is for the topic that we're learning. And then I go back to the textbook and I pull out the charts. So in anesthesia school, you're gonna notice that the charts in the textbooks and the boxes and the tables, whatever you wanna call them, those are pearls basically. So if you look at the boxes, you'll see that it contains pages of material all condensed into like this little square. So they're really good for pulling out and making outlines and just printing them out and looking at them and studying them. So after rereading the PowerPoints and going over them and then going back to the textbook for a second time to study those charts or tables, I then go to Apex Anesthesia Board Prep. So that is basically like the gold standard for board prep for your NB CRNA. And our school that I'm at now, we are required to utilize the board prep even in our second semester, and it's as like a homework assignment. So after I do my PowerPoints and the textbooks, I go to the board prep and do questions in that specific topic that we're learning that week. And those questions are really thorough. They provide very good rationales, and they even put the reference for the rationale. So if you want to know more about it beyond what they explained, you could go back to the textbook that they referenced and look into it. So I do those questions, and that just builds upon the knowledge and material that I'm learning that week. So after those 3 forms of studying, which is reading outlines and PowerPoints, tables, charts, Apex board prep, I then have family members test me, because if you're able to recall the knowledge without looking at any pieces of paper and just verbally being able to speak upon what you know, that's how you know you have a very good understanding of the material. So I'll have either Anthony, my mom, or my sister basically take my outline or my PowerPoint and ask me questions based on those outlines. I'm able to get a better idea of where I stand in the material by doing this. So if I'm able to answer everything right, explain everything thoroughly, then I know the studying I've been doing is working. I feel confident and I'm ready for the test. If I am not able to really answer many of the questions, I only know a little bit of the material, then I know, hey, listen, I gotta buckle down a little bit more, or I got to put more time into what I've been doing in the outlines and PowerPoints, gotta go back instead of just jumping forward. After I have somebody test me verbally, I then use my whiteboard to write down things that I tend to forget the most. So then I go through the material again, and as I read through it, and I notice, oh, you know, I keep forgetting this one thing, and it's important. I make a list on my whiteboard called the Don't Forget list, and it's all things that I tend to forget the most. And then I leave that there on the whiteboard for 2 to 3 days, and then the day of the test, I erase it. And as I erase it, I read it and say, okay, not gonna forget it, not gonna forget it. And I do that right before my exam. So the things that I tend to forget the most, I will actually remember.
Hi guys!
Okay, Anthony.
Is that my cue?
You didn't have a cue.
Oh, I thought I missed it.
Get out of here. Now, after the whiteboard and the don't forget list, I then have a study session with my friends. So it's very important to make friends in anesthesia school because you guys are no longer competing against each other. You all have the common goal and you're going to achieve it. So might as well work together than work alone and struggle. So it is me and my two friends, and we hold study sessions the weekends before the exam. So now we're coming down to the weekend. We started at the beginning by reading the textbook and having lecture, then going back into the lecture and then going back to the textbook and then having someone test me, then making a whiteboard, doing board prep, and now we're here at the study session. So in my study sessions with my friends, we basically go over all the material and we question each other. So I'll have a bunch of questions and I will ask my friends, oh, what's this? And they'll ask me, what's that? And if we don't understand something, one of us in the group usually does and uses that as a teaching opportunity. So when you have 3 different minds coming together, you're able to see things in a different light and get a better understanding, because you may not have a good understanding of something, but your friend has a really thorough understanding of something and is able to explain it to you in a way that the teachers weren't able to or the textbook wasn't able to. So it's really good to make friends and have a study group. And now the final thing that I do to study is Quizlet and or Anki. So Quizlet is basically, I spoke about this before, it's basically just an online study software that you can use to make flashcards, and then it could turn it into a test form and you can see how much you know. And same thing with Anki, it's just a way to have long-term memorization and knowledge about a material. So I use those two towards the end of my weekend when I'm getting close to the exam, because I'm able to just use it on my iPad, my iPhone, and just go through flashcards. And I know by the time I'm able to go through flashcards and know them like that, then my studying has been complete. So that is really all that I do. It's technically a lot, I guess, but I think it's important to have different forms of studying, because when you see material in all those different ways and you're able to understand it, then you know that you'll be fine for the exams. And I think that based off of my first few exams, I think that this is working and it's something that I'm going to stick with. So just to recap on everything, I read the textbook, I have my lecture, I go back after lecture and reread the PowerPoints and the notes that I wrote. Then I go back into the textbook and I extract all the charts and tables that I feel like are the most important. And then I go and do some board prep questions and read those rationales. I take little notes on things that I didn't see in the textbook or didn't go over in lecture that I do think is important. Once I've gone through all of that, when I feel ready, I have a family member or someone to test me verbally. Then I take that over to the whiteboard, and the things that I tend to forget the most, I write down, and I keep that there till the morning of the test, and I erase it as I go. I just say, oh, got it. Then I have a study session that weekend before the exam, and then I spend some free time doing Quizlet flashcards and Anki flashcards. And one last thing, I know last semester I mentioned that I used concept maps to study pharmacology, and unfortunately I had to abandon that study method this semester because as you advance in the program, the material just becomes so dense and abundant that it's impossible to write everything down in the form of a concept map, at least for me. So I realized I would just be wasting more time trying to get everything to fit on a single piece of paper when it's literally impossible because you have to know so much. So instead of wasting all that time, I decided to pick up multiple forms of studying to try to maximize the amount of material I can learn in the short amount of time that we are allotted. And that is it. I mean, it does seem like a lot, it does sound like a lot, but for me, I think seeing the information in different ways is what really helps it stick, as opposed to just constantly going back and reading the same thing over and over and over again. If I read all different forms, then chances are I'm gonna pick up new things that I didn't know before in all those different forms. So for me it works, and hopefully for you guys it works as well. If you have any questions about studying and ways that you can improve your studying, feel free to message me or leave a comment below. I will be glad to help. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe because it really supports my channel. And I will see you guys soon. Bye.